Hi, I'm Dr. Amy French of the Delta College History Department, and I'm here today looking at our Women Who Dared walking tour of cardboard cutouts of women who dared to make history by stepping out of their cultural confines and doing different things throughout time. And so in front of us is Fannie Lou Hamer, who is a civil rights activist who spent her life in service to issues of segregation and injustice. And in 1964, she helped found the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And her epitaph reads, "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired." Down here, we have Emma Goldman. Emma was an atheist, an anarchist, and a supporter of women's rights. She spoke on issues of the working class, of free love, of gender politics. She fought for women's emancipation and including access to birth control. Across the hall here, we have Katherine Von Bora. Her husband got a lot of the attention. She was once a Catholic nun, and he was once a Catholic monk, Martin Luther. But while many men sought her hand in marriage, Katherine insisted that only Luther would do. And they married in 1525, and she oversaw their growing family and several business ventures that allowed him to continue his work as a Protestant reformer. Hazel Ying Li was the first Chinese American woman to fly for the U.S. military, and she was one of the 2 Chinese Americans in the Women Air Service Pilots program, known as the WASPs. And there was 38 WASPs. The WASPs flew tens of millions of miles, and they flew every plane that came off the line. So they flew the experimental planes, and they made sure that all the planes were safe to fly. And then across the hall here, we have George Sand. And George was born Amadine Aurore Lucille Dupin. And she later changed her name to George Sand because she wanted to have her newspaper articles and novels published. And after she retired, she wrote a 20-volume bibliography expressing sexual freedom, equal rights for women, and urging an end to arranged marriages. She did all that in the 1800s. Now over here we have Katherine Johnson, who dared to step out of her culture, the cultural confines of the gender for most of her life. She was the 3rd African American to earn a PhD in mathematics, and she became one of the human computers that made the Apollo space mission viable. Over here we have Hypatia. And Hypatia, this is back, Hypatia lived in 351 to 415 in the Common Era. And so she was a Greek philosopher who was also the first woman to be well documented in the field of mathematics. And she was the head of the Platonist school in Alexandria, where she also taught philosophy and astronomy. And then across the hall, we have Annie Clement, who is better known, Anna Clement, she was better known as Big Annie. And she was the labor leader and organizer up in the copper country of Michigan. And she was she's carrying the American flag there. She's one of the people who really helped out in the 1913-1914 copper strike and helped organize the workers there. And then across the hall here, we have Edith Clarke. And Edith was the first female electrical engineer and the first female professor of electrical engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. She's known for many things, including she created some technology that was very advanced, like a graphical device, the Clark calculator, that solved equations involving electric current, voltage, and impedance in power transmission lines. And so she earned many honors and recognition for being the first woman to break down gender barriers in engineering. And then next to her is Margaret Sanger. And Margaret is known for her work as a birth control advocate for family planning. She was a nurse, and after witnessing over and over high child mortality rates, women dying after being not able to plan their family sizes with their husbands, she fought against the Comstock Law of 1873 that prohibited medical workers from talking about how to control family sizes. And she funded the American Birth Control League, which is now Planned Parenthood. Across the hall is Betty Friedan. Betty Friedan was an American feminist, activist, and writer. She wrote a book in 1963, The Feminine Mystique, which really opened the way for women to think about their place in the family, the community, and the world at large. And she was one of the co-founders of the National Organization for Women. Over here we have Mother Jones, aka her real name is Mary Harris, but she's known better by Mother Jones. And Mother Jones devoted her life to improving work conditions for men and women. After losing her husband and her 4 children to yellow fever, she just traveled constantly, putting everything she had in a black shawl and rallying workers to the union cause. Another big union activist was Dolores Huerta, though much later. In the 1970s, she and Cesar Chavez brought some of the nation's most downtrodden workers, farm workers, collective bargaining by starting the United Farm Workers Union. And she continues to advocate for women, children, and the working poor long after she and Chavez were able to get farm workers unionized. And then down the hall here, we have Abigail Adams, who was First Lady to John Adams, but is probably should be better known for her role in being his advisor. In fact, his cabinet used to complain about her, saying, kind of nastily actually, saying they didn't know why anybody else, why he even had a cabinet, since he only sought her counsel. And when the country was being started as the United States, and they were declaring independence, she asked him, she says, remember the ladies, and asked John, and of course Thomas Jefferson, who was also with John at that time, to be a little bit more gentle in the future. And so I'm going to end this section for now, and I'm Dr. Amy French, and I'm at Delta College, and this is the Women Who Dared Walking Tour.